personal confuser. Don't whine, don't moan, don't yell. Just call for help. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Tonight, turn your toast into geeky art with one simple hack. Plus, switch your Linux desktops in 3D. And we'll talk to Kevin Smith about his latest film, directing, comics, and a whole lot more. Live from the Tech TV studios in San Francisco, it's the Screensavers!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Kevin Rose. Thanks for joining us on the Screensavers. This is the place that shows you the latest and greatest in the world of technology. Bleeding edge, even.
Scary bleeding edge.
Yes, indeed. And I'm actually back from LA, just got back. We did a little war driving looking for open wireless access points.
You didn't get caught.
No, we didn't get caught. Well, we got in a little bit of trouble, but
Did we get it on video?
Yeah, we did it on video as well. We also did some war spying, which is I took a modified X10.
Step out of the car, sir.
Yeah, that's basically what happened.
Put down the notebook, sir.
Dan tried to jump a fence. It was not good. We got kicked out.
I broke my leg.
Yeah, we got kicked out of a couple places. But it was fun. We did war driving, war spying. Went to a bunch of different celebrities' homes to try and find and see if they had open access points.
Any good pictures?
Vanilla Ice had an open access point. It was pretty cool.
For the kids out in the audience, we'll explain. Before he became an alternative rock star, he was a rap artist.
That's right.
Ask your parents.
But that's all coming up on the Dark Side of Tech special, which is April 14th.
That'll be a good one.
It's going to be cool. It's pretty funny.
Tonight, though, is really cool. We're building an internet toaster, a computerized toaster. I got to talk with Kevin Smith, who's like amazing director, and he's going to have some good stuff to say about
Kevin Smith.
He's a good man. Well, it's Jersey Pride. But we got even more, actually. We'll talk what that's all about.
Awesome. And I'm also going to show you 3D Linux.
This is cool.
This is really cool. It's kind of a different take on Linux. If you think Linux is really boring and geeky, I'm going to spice it up.
This is very nice. It's beautiful.
Yes, indeed.
Sarah, what are you up to?
You know, first of all, Dan did not break his leg. I saw you on a pogo stick at lunch.
What?
He was there with broken leg.
What can I say?
He was going for the sympathy before the phone call part.
That's what I do.
Yes, Dan. You do
Don't admit those clever methods.
Yes.
What should people do when they want to call you?
They should give me a call, 888-989-7879. And what they should also do is also email us at thescreensavers@techtv.com.
Excellent. Let's start off with the tech news that caught our eye today. Sarah has the first story.
E-voting has been a big topic of debate in the recent months, and today software company Vote Here has decided to release the source code for its paperless ballot verification system. Vote Here's founder Jim Alder said, "Now it's up to the world to take a look, dig in, and give us their opinion."
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Smart.
It's very smart. We've had a couple of different people on the show that's talked about e-voting in the past, and they've always said this should not be a closed source technology.
Absolutely
People
not.
need to see the source code and see what's going on behind the scenes.
Fine example of a closed source technology, Microsoft Windows. Are there enough holes? Have there been 235 virus announcements? There's been holes, there's been worms. We need trusted code. The only way to do that is to open it up and let everybody look for it.
That's the only way we're going to find all the holes. So this is a great first step. We're really excited about this.
We like that. So maybe someday we can vote on the web.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right. Next story? You guys ready? Okay.
We're ready.
Google's all over the news today. First one, we recently reported the search engine's announcement of their own email service called Gmail. Well, it turns out that a London-based research company has a trademark on the name Gmail and does not intend to share it. More to come on that. Also in Google News, the company is amidst controversy with a search listing that directs viewers to an anti-Semitic site when the keyword Jew is entered. Google's been hands-off so far in this, leading an online organization to get involved by Google bombing. That's a technique that exploits Google's search methodology of basing rankings on how many sites link to a given page to help kick off the site themselves, taking it into their own hands.
Well, Google bombing, they've been trying to actually defend against this for a while. because they don't want people to skew the results.
Yeah.
And this just happens to be one of the results that has gone through their engine. It's been applied to all the different algorithms that Google uses to rank different sites.
And it's a pretty wild system. Basically, they spider, they look around, and they base their Google rankings based on how many pages link to a particular source. Google bombing is the fine and vicious art of skewing the results. You may remember the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, where I think it was the GeorgeBushStinks.com site or a four-letter expletive we can't mention on a fine TVG show like this, but people can basically skew the results on Google by how they interconnect between a bunch of web pages.
Yeah, I think that they're working on ways, last time we talked to Google, to get around this so they're not going to skew the results. But they said also, if you read the rest of the story, if they receive 50,000 votes, they'll take the listing off.
And that's where it's in a debate because, somebody says, no, Google will not adjust any results, which is not true because for legal purposes and in fear of the DMCA, which is a pretty good thing to be afraid of, they've actually pulled stuff for the Kazaa links have been pulled off of Google, and actually in foreign countries they've pulled off results off the website. Google, great tool, not infallible. It's going to be really interesting to see how this one settles out.
Yep. Next story.
All right, listen to this one. If you're a surgeon, playing video games may actually help you in the ER. That's right. A recent survey by researchers with Beth Israel and the National Institute on Media and Family at Iowa State University found that doctors who spend at least 3 hours a week playing video games made about 37% fewer mistakes in laparoscopic surgery. The surgical procedure uses a tiny camera and instruments controlled by joysticks outside the body, a lot like video games. The research also found that surgeons who game perform the task 27% faster than their non-gaming counterparts.
I'm glad this came out. I'm really glad this came out because Sarah is always saying to me, like, you game too much Halo. Now I can say I'm studying to become a doctor.
No!
That works out.
Give it a rest. That's like tank driving. I know what Halo is.
It's part of my study. I'm trying to further myself, if you will.
Oh.
Are you buying this?
I'm not. Audience, are you buying this? No.
Well, the part with the laparoscopic surgeons improving their eye-hand coordination, I'll buy into, but the justification that you're going to go to medical school because you play Halo, no.
I don't know. I was trying to think of something. I want to play more video games. Can't blame me.
You're just going to have to fight that up one with Sarah on your own time.
And you will lose, sir.
I will not.
You will lose.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's all thank Sarah for the news.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
And let's all
have a good show.
Wish you luck in your foolish pursuit of fighting that one out.
Jim joins us on the Tech TV NetCam network from Providence, Rhode Island.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
It's going great.
How can we help you today?
Well, what my question is basically has to do with massive online multiplayer role-playing games and the video cards. I have one of the ones I play just started using DirectX 9 primarily, making it a requirement. And I'm trying to figure out, I had a ATI 9200 non-pro, and I want to upgrade to an ATI 9600 XT, 256 megabyte. Where's the bottleneck between the processor and the video card occur?
Let me ask you two questions. What processor are you running?
XP 90 or 2200.
Oh, so Athlon XP 2200?
Yes, sir.
That's the exact same CPU I have, as a matter of fact.
It's a nice processor, actually. What resolution are you playing the game at?
1024 by 768.
I don't think you're going to run into much of a bottleneck on the processor. Where they tend to run into that is when you're basically, there's two things going on. If you've got a big giant screen like 1600 by 1200, the bottleneck tends to be the graphics card. If you've got 1024 by 768, you can pump so many pixels through the graphics card before they get to that screen. You're basically talking about the processor being the bottleneck. At 1024 by 768, you're not going to see the difference between, say, 100 frames per second and 350 frames per second. You know what I mean? It's like a benchmark test at 640 by 480. Great way to test processors. Great way to see, which graphics cards have bottlenecks. Not a particularly useful. It's like, wow, I can play Quake at 275,000 frames per second. Woohoo! It's not much.
You're not even going to see it. But Jim, what type of games are you trying to play?
Well, I play EQ, which is EverQuest. And I get, whenever there's, 30, 40, 50, 75 people on the screen at one time, you get this really bad frame rate.
How fast of internet connection do you have?
Cable.
Cable modem?
Yeah,
That could be an issue because when you get all those people in there's so much data that has to go back and forth. When you're mapping coordinates of different players moving around the machine, that information has to be sent to your local machine so that they can render the graphics. Sometimes we've seen problems with slow internet providers, things of that nature. But
probably ask around on the boards because when you're talking about as many characters as you're talking about moving around, you're talking about a huge amount of information for the graphics card to process.
So I'm waiting for other players and their modem speeds as well as my own and my own modem speed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair assumption?
I actually would. I'd probably doubt that in this case.
It's a little bit of both, maybe. It depends on
it impacts it. I'll be honest with you. If they just moved to DirectX 9, you're running a 9200, which is not the hottest graphics card in the planet. That's why it's selling for about $40 now. Brentano's jumping in.
On Star Wars Galaxies, there's the same problem.
Right.
That when there are so many people on the screen that the computer can't keep up with it. Mm-hmm. And these machines that we got here, our new LAN party machines, are the 5950s and the big Athlon 64s, and they still slow down when there's a bunch of people on the screen. So it's I think it's processor because that seems to speed it up a bit when you go up a bigger processor.
So you're saying graphics card isn't going to help, more processor might help. What about at the server end? Is it getting bottlenecked at the server end?
I doubt it. I mean, the servers are massive. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're huge, huge servers. And I think it's got to be processor because when you spin for example, when I spin the view in Galaxies and it comes up a bunch of whole people, the system just bogs down. The graphic quality doesn't change, and it doesn't seem to make a difference if I turn the quality of the graphics on or off. So I think it's processor, and in this case, we can't. The game's still too powerful for the computers we have.
Well, that's some depressing news, right, Jim? We have the fastest processors on the planet, and it's still not fixing the problem on a different version of the same basic game engine. Well,
we'll just have to wait and see. You know, it's always getting better. Every single time I upgrade my processor, every time I get more RAM and things of that nature, I'm always seeing a little performance jump, so we'll have to just wait and see.
All right, Jim. If anybody out there has some ideas for speeding up EverQuest, give us an email at screensavers@techtv.com. Good question, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Brentano. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just getting started. You've heard of multiple desktops in Linux. How about multiple 3D desktops? Kevin's going to show you. And up next, it's time to hack your breakfast. We serve up some toast, geek style, when the Screensavers continues. Modding your morning toast. Our next guest has devised some ingenious hacks from the incredibly useful to the just plain peculiar. He's the author of Hardware Hacking Projects for Geeks. We want to welcome Scott Fulham to the Screensavers. Scott, this is serious business.
It is.
You've set up, this is a pretty classic. Can we get a shot of the toast? You're putting words and images in the front of toast.
That's correct.
There was some inspiration here.
That's correct.
The internet toaster, I guess. Robin
Southgate. A number of years ago, I was surfing the web and came across an internet toaster. And basically what he had done is he had found a way to toast patterns on bread. And I thought, well, that's interesting. But I read through in more detail, and it was pretty complicated. There were motors and all kinds of different stuff.
It was like 19th century English clockwork.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty complicated. So I thought, there's got to be an easier and simpler way to do this.
We like that. So you came up, we actually have the toaster here. Yeah. You want to walk us through the basic modification process?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to modify the heating elements. So the first thing you do is you carefully disassemble an unplugged toaster.
Actually, there's one thing before that. Ask your mother's permission before you just... and then one thing before that, unplug the toaster. Toaster, electricity, shock, pain, anguish, bad. Don't do this without mom's permission. Sorry.
Right.
We have to do that because every so often we don't. We get a really horrible email. Is that the toasting element right there?
This is the toasting element, or one of the toasting elements in the toaster.
So what's going on here?
So what this is nichrome wire. And nichrome wire heats up when you put electrical current through it. And the material it's attached to is called mica. It's a fireproof material. It's been around for ages.
It's like isinglass is gone, but mica.
That's right.
Mines will never shut down.
Exactly. So what you're going to do is you're going to expose this part of the toaster, and you're going to modify it. What you're going to do is you're going to modify it by. Why don't you hold on to it here? We're going to independently control the top and bottom heating elements. And the way we do that, and you flip it over, is we're going to cut the heating elements here, dividing it top and bottom. I'm going to rewire it here and here, according to the instructions in my book.
Very cool.
And the wire we're going to use high temperature appliance wiring so that inside the toaster it won't burn up.
So if I pull a bunch of zip cord off of an old stereo, it will melt inside the toaster.
That's right. It will melt and will smell bad, and your toast will smell bad and all that.
And you'll probably have to throw the toaster out.
That's correct.
How do you actually get the design itself burnt onto this?
Right. So what it is, I took a piece of 8-gauge copper wire, and I bent it into a pattern. a pattern that's approximately the top or bottom of the toasting elements. Cool. And what this is acts as a mask, and that mask will allow the toast to be toasted everywhere except that pattern. So it imprints it on your toast.
And how are you actually bending these up?
I took a pair of pliers, and I bent it up into a pattern. Either this one or I have another one here.
The Linux Penguin?
That's right.
So basically get creative and learn how to use needle nose pliers.
Exactly.
We like it. So how do we actually control this?
Right. So
we have a top and bottom. We can
that's
turn it
right.
on
You've got that independently controlled, and what you do is we've built a controller here, and the controller switches a relay that either connects the top or bottom elements. And this controller actually has a couple of buttons here that will allow you to select between hot and cool toast here.
This is serious. You put some time into this.
I did. And this box also has an RS-232 serial port, so you can send serial commands at it. Or if you want to be old-fashioned, you can actually just install a toggle switch.
Will there be a USB or a web controller in the future?
That's correct, 2.0.
I like that thought. So you could have actually done this with a couple of switches, but you decided to go for the microcontroller.
That's right, exactly.
Very cool. There's like 20 other projects in the 20 or 12?
Take a look. Probably 20-odd projects.
20-odd projects. What's your next favorite project in here?
The big one, the building size display.
This is awesome. Yeah. So it's like MIT a few years ago. They started playing Tetris on the wall of one of their dormitories.
This hack allows you to put giant display pictures and games on the side of a building.
So that would be the next one. You didn't come back and help us light up a building?
Certainly.
This is cool. What's going to come next for you?
Well, right now I'm working on a electronic beer mug. It'll keep your beer cold using an old CPU cooler.
Yoshi's going to be so jealous. Great stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get more information on this, the book, Hardware Hacking Projects for Geeks, and be sure to read Scott's step-by-step article. He's got photos, he's got diagrams, and you can find it all at thescreensavers.com. Great stuff, Scott.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, still to come, I had the honor to talk with Kevin Smith about comic books, his Mac obsession, and getting back on people who say mean things on the internet. And up next, find out where to find old driver software with our next caller. All coming up on the Screensavers continues.
Indeed. Don't forget to register for this week's Screensavers LAN party.
Powered by NVIDIA.
We're in our last week of Battlefield Vietnam. Grab your M16 and jump in a tank. It's time to frag yourself a screensaver. And to top it off, not only are we running the LAN party, we're also customizing and giving away our LAN party machines.
Nice machines.
Yeah, very nice machines. You have two chances to win. First, simply register for our LAN party and you're automatically entered. And second, be sure to watch for our secret code word during the LAN party on Thursday. You'll enter that into the website, and that'll increase your odds even further. We'll be giving away one machine per week for the next 3 weeks, and you can enter each week. So go to our website and click on Join Our LAN Party to register. You must have the full version to play the game, but you can register even if you don't have the game. And we will see you this Thursday for the Screensavers LAN Party.
Very cool. Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis joins us on the phone from Louisville, Kentucky.
Hey, Dennis.
Hey.
Hey, Patrick.
And Kevin.
Yeah, I'm Kevin.
What's up, Dennis?
World. How can we help you, man?
Well, I've got an older motherboard here with my CPU Builder's Premium Starter System, and I'm trying to find the latest, any place I can find the latest drivers for this motherboard. It seems that the manufacturer has stopped making this model and do not have any updated drivers for it.
Can you find any drivers? If you have a new motherboard, it's really easy to find drivers, right? Look, you can even find commercials built right on the motherboard. Who made that motherboard, Dennis?
I believe it's VIA.
VIA Technologies?
Yes.
What's a good thing there? Have you basically the first place you start is by checking the manufacturer's website. Do they even list any information on the board?
I couldn't find any.
See, the thing is that VIA normally, now correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, but they don't normally make motherboards. They make the chipsets that run the motherboards.
Right.
So it's probably, do you happen to know the actual name of the manufacturer of the motherboard?
To my understanding, it was VIA Technology,
it was VIA
but I do know that it has a VIA chipset as well.
Right.
One of the things you can try to do, and we really don't recommend it, is you can, and VIA almost never posts drivers because they want you to buy them, like Kevin said. If you find out what chipset it is, you can actually find another motherboard manufacturer and try to install their drivers. That works sometimes it doesn't. What you want to do is find out is if you can find the manufacturers, like, I don't know if we can even get a shot of that, but right down there in little tiny white script in there, it says that this is a gigabyte motherboard. And if you can't find an actual name, you see it right there, it's the little logo, and it's a GA7 G7VX AXP. If you can't find something like that, what you can look for is over here. And every product that's sold in the United States should have one of these things right here. It's an FCC ID.
Right.
And if you find that FCC number on there, and it's going to be like a 7 or 5-digit number, it's really hard to find. But if you do that, what you can do is enter it into the FCC ID search page. And that's a great thing, because a lot of really inexpensive motherboards and graphics cards, they don't put the manufacturer's name on them because somebody just whips off 200,000-300,000 of them and sells them.
Right.
You can go through here, you can enter the number in the ID search page, and you can find out who made it. And then you can find out if they have a web page that's devoted to that.
That's good. People at this CPU builders, when I called for tech support, one told me that my motherboard was made by DFI. So I tried to download the drivers, and I got a message on my screen telling me that my motherboard was not a DFI model.
Right.
So then someone at DFI checks into it, and they tell me that it's actually made by PC Partner. Now, the drivers, I don't know. I don't think they went through, but the BIOS update did.
What operating system are you trying to install on this, Dennis?
I've got XP Home Edition.
And XP doesn't have it. It's kind of funny, because usually XP will actually have almost all the drivers you need for any motherboard. If the chipset's made by a major manufacturer, XP should be able to install all the drivers you need. If it doesn't, you can try. You already tried it, right, by looking at DFI. Sometimes they look for the DFI brand on the motherboard, and if it doesn't work,
one of the websites. Yeah, one of the websites you might want to take a look at is ViaArena.com. I've been there. Have you been there? Because they have all the. You've heard of the 4-in-1 drivers, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you install any of the 4-in-1 drivers for VIA?
Yeah, I've got the latest one on there.
And it worked out for you? That worked when you installed those, or so far? Because normally it's just the 4-in-1 drivers that you need to install, and that takes care of everything as far as the chipset is concerned. And from that point forward, you just go out and find your video card drivers, and then you should be set.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've walked through the process. Is there some feature on the motherboard you just can't get to run, or?
Well, I'm just trying to make sure everything is as up to date as possible, because I just recently got through checking my graphics card. I just recently updated from a 64 megabyte card to 256.
Right.
And of course, I also just got through upgrading my RAM from 384 meg to 1.5 gigs.
You know what? It sounds like you've gone through, you've installed XP, you've found the drivers, you've double-checked. At this point, there's not much else you can do. About the only thing you could do would be to upgrade the motherboard and the chip and the memory, and find some newer hardware technology. But I think you're covered in terms of the drivers, Dennis.
Yeah.
Not much else to go with on that one. Good one, man.
Thanks for the call, Dennis. Now here is Sarah with a quick tip.
That's right. If you love customizing and tweaking Windows, and I know you do, I've got a great site for you. Check out BuiltFire.net. It's a site dedicated to belting. No, it's dedicated to changing the way Windows looks, feels, and runs. You can change themes, boot logon screens, and even download new icons. I'm in browser heaven. Now don't go anywhere. Kevin's running Linux. But not just any Linux, it's 3D. And after the break, Patrick chats with Kevin Smith about his latest film, Jersey Girl, comic books, and a lot more. It's all when the Screensavers continue.
Welcome back to the Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Kevin Rose. Coming up in this half hour, I'm going to show you a new way to switch your Linux desktops in 3D.
It's very cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's so pretty. Plus, the other day I got the chance to chat with Kevin Smith about directing comic books in his latest film, Jersey Girl. Let's take a look.
What does yours look like?
Gertie, it's time for Brian to go home.
What are your intentions?
Huh?
What are your intentions with my daughter? Do you plan on marrying her?
I don't know.
Okay, Brian, you can go now. Come back with a ring.
Joining us via satellite from Los Angeles, writer, director, actor, and fellow Jersey expatriate Kevin Smith. Welcome to the Screensavers, Kevin. Jersey Girl, saw it. Great flick. I'm also a huge fan of everything else you've done. This is not a typical Kevin Smith movie. Can you tell us a little bit about why Jersey Girl is so different?
I mean, it's certainly different from Jay and Bob, right? I mean, it's kind of a 180 from that movie, but It's at the same time not that different to me than Chasing Amy. You know, it's kind of a mixture of comedy and drama, centers on relationships or awkward relationships, and we just kind of swapped out the lesbian for a 7-year-old girl this time around.
Jersey Girl is by far, I think, the tightest movie you've done. What changed from earlier movies beyond, of course, you know, Jay and Silent Bob departing?
Well, I think we're missing out on all that wonderful profanity I'm usually trading in, and by virtue of the fact that we got the 7-year-old girl in the movie, you can have people running around screaming vulgarities in her face. So I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel that different. You know, I mean, it's obviously a different set of relationships. It's more about family. I don't think I've ever made a film about family before. They've always been about, you know, extended families, the relationships between friends and boyfriends and girlfriends. Never, you know, the familial relationships. So this is really the first time I'm kind of tackling that.
I may be projecting here, but I always like, the first thing, about 20 minutes into Jay and Silent Bob, I suddenly realized this movie was like, you know, dreaming about the damage some part of you wants to rack on every weenie online that's talked smack about you anonymously. I mean, the closing scene, the airplanes, Jay and Silent Bob, you know, tracking down people by their online names and putting the smackdown on them. You know, is you having fun? Is there some part of you that wishes you were just callow enough to fly to every house in North America and teach 14-year-olds manners? Or
that was kind of that was anger management therapy for me in that movie. You know, just kind of going out there and taking retribution, you know, against all the people who jump online and be like, you're a hack and stuff like that, or far worse than that, actually.
We've got a fair number of comic book loving geeks watching the Screensavers. I mean, what's it like being a fan of comic? I mean, you're openly a fan of comic books in Hollywood. It seems like nobody who directs comic book movies are supposed to really enjoy reading the comic books. I mean, do you feel that way watching them? Or?
It's true. I mean, it's getting a little better, but there have been a lot of people who've made comic book movies talking about, like, well, I'm not a reader myself, but, you know, I'm going to try to interpret this Byzantine material. And for me, it's like, what? If you're not a fan, what are you going near it for? But, you know, that being said, and people like Bryan Singer, who says he's not really a comic book reader kind of guy, who did a great job with X-Men 2. But I think, you know, why not give the material to some guy who actually likes comic books, who wants to bring that sensibility to the screen?
I know you're doing the Green Hornet as your next project. Are there any other sort of fantasy comic book directing gigs you'd love to have?
For me, no. I think comic books have always been a little daunting ever since that Superman experience I had writing the script back in '96, because usually you're dealing with a too many cooks syndrome, where there's just so many people working on the movie. You've got to please the studio, you've got to please the producer, you've got to please in the case of Superman, DC Comics as well. You've got to appease fandom, listen to me. You've got to appease the entire fandom. You've got to appease whoever winds up directing the movie, although I got booted, so that didn't matter. You got to appease whoever winds up being the star, and you also have to kind of please yourself in the process. And that's way too many cooks to deal with, you know. But with Green Hornet, I only have to answer to one guy. I just have to answer to Harvey Weinstein, you know, the chairman of Miramax. So that feels okay. I answer to him, I answer to myself. And there's not like a rabid fandom for the Green Hornet like there is for a lot of other comic book characters, so I got more wiggle room. You know, I won't be stepping on eons of history or backstory or mythos. So it's in terms of making a comic book movie, this is the best opportunity that I'll ever have or would ever want to do so.
That's going to be, I mean, it's interesting. You've written for movies, you've actually written for the Green Arrow, you've written for Daredevil. Is it a little more daunting to write for the comic books because of all the history in some of those?
No, that's fun because, A, you're working for a much, much smaller audience. They're more vocal, but they're still a smaller audience. And as long as you kind of honor what's gone before you, you'll be relatively okay. And it's also great because I just write it and hand it off to a dude who visually realizes it. In the case of Daredevil, that was Joe Quesada, who took my material and made it 100 times better than what I had written, but thanks to his gorgeous visuals.
Yeah, the film looks great. Now, barring the lightsabers and the CG sheep that didn't make the final cut in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, you know, you're not really a big CG kind of director. Is that going to change big special effects in Fletch 1 or the Green Hornet, maybe?
I mean, Green Hornet will definitely have a lot of CG, but Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back had about 120 CG shots.
That many?
CG shots. Yeah, there was quite a bit in that movie.
I apologize.
But, oh no, it's hidden. You know, it's sometimes it's removal of things, and sometimes it's just corrections or something. There's actually a little bit of CG in Jersey Girl as well. We had to add snow, and we went through the building in the opening shot. We track across the New York City skyline and go through this building, and it's snowing, and then we go right through the window, and we're in a room. So that was a big CG shot for us. And also the really subtle stuff, like at one point Affleck has this really horrendous large tattoo on his arm, and it popped out of the shirt. His shirt kind of went up and revealed it, and this character's the kind of guy that wouldn't have a tattoo, particularly that tattoo. So we went in there and digitally erased it. It's really kind of wonderful what we can do with that stuff.
Robert Rodriguez is somebody who champions digital editing. He's basically, seems like all of his post-production is done in the oversized garage he's built on his house. Do you plan on moving in that direction?
I mean, well, we've been digitally editing for years now. Ever since Chasing Amy, we've been working on the Avid system. In terms of shooting digitally, which Robert's a really big proponent of, I don't know if I'm ready to jump there yet, because at the end of the day, it's video, and the medium's called film, so I'm kind of a little bit of a purist when it comes to that.
Kevin Smith, thank you so much for taking so much time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me, man. Good talking to you.
You can tell that we were both about 3/4 awake there. That's like half the interview. We had so much to talk about, we couldn't actually fit it in one segment. So be sure to watch on April 30th. We're going to bring Kevin back out, talk about his love affair and addiction to Max, the scary places he uses them, and some gossip about the Preacher comic book movie. And if you missed it or you want to watch it again, we got the Kevin Smith interview unedited, plus links to all of his websites, including News Askew, View Askew, and all the others on the screensavers.com.
I wanted to interview him. That was awesome.
He was fun.
I bet. He was a cool guy. Stay where you are. Learn how to secure your cable internet connection with our next caller. And 3D Linux desktop switching up next when the Screensavers continues. A few weeks ago from a viewer that said, I love Sarah's Windows tweaks and tips, but what about the hardcore Linux customizations? Well, we've shown Black Box and some other alternative Windows environments for Linux, but today I wanted to show you two fun tweaks for KDE, Matrix GL and 3D Desktop Switcher. So let's take a look at them right here. I have it installed.
What's KDE?
KDE is the desktop environment, or one of the desktop environments for Linux. That's what I'm running right here. So when you see all these menus and the scroll bars and everything, the whole operating environment, that is KDE.
So it could be that or GNOME or even other
Exactly.
ones.
There's like a whole handful of 10 or 15 of them. So I went with KDE on this one, and I'm in the shell right now. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see me zoomed in here. And what I love is this is Debian Linux, and what I love so much about it is you can choose you can do installations using an apt-get command. And what apt-get does is it makes it so easy for you to install applications. If you want to install something, you don't have to compile it. You don't have to go through all that headache that you do with.
You don't have to manually install and check for updates in 40 different folders inside of Linux.
Exactly. All you do is type apt-get space the name of the application. In this case, I'm going to do apt-get install space. I believe it's the GL Matrix. And then once I hit enter there, it is going to go ahead and install the GL Matrix into the machine. And once I do that, all I have to do is click on these settings here, and I'm going to choose another setting here. This is within the KDE desktop environment. If you take a look at here, it says the behavior setting is say allow programs to run in the desktop window. So that means that applications can actually replace your desktop.
Oh, weird.
So I've done that, and I launched the GL. This is GL Matrix, so that has replaced my desktop altogether. That's basically a 3D Matrix-like screensaver, but it's actually your desktop. You can click on the KDE Start menu and get all your different things. It definitely beats a standard JPEG. But aside from that, now, if I want to switch multiple desktops, which I love doing in Linux, if you take a look at the bottom here, the bottom center here, you're probably used to this right here. This is your 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your different. You can click on that. That'll give you desktop 1. That'll give you the desktop 2, desktop 3, and desktop 4. Now, on each of the desktops, you can have different things running. Like this is a Konqueror web browser that I'm running apple.com. Here I have a homepage at google.com. So if we can pull all the way out, I'm going to show you the switcher now. This is the 3D switcher. All I have to do is click this button here. You want to take a full of the screen here, and it's going to shrink it all down into windows, allowing me to choose exactly which desktop I want.
And those are all being rendered in 3D.
Exactly. They're all being rendered in 3D, and all I have to do is say, I want the Google desktop. Boom, right there. I'm back into Google. So I can click on that again and then choose exactly which one I want. If I want, let's say, the Mac desktop, let's go back to that. There it is. And these are two fun, little, easy-to-install tweaks that you can do in KDE. I shouldn't say easy to install because it took me a while to get here.
If you live and breathe and die in Linux, they're an easy install. For the rest of us,
that only play with Linux every few weeks, like you and I, it's like we have to operate on Windows because all the applications that we use for work are on Windows.
Exactly.
So we forget a lot of the commands. But this is a cool little application. For the links to download, Debian Linux, which is what I'm running here, Matrix GL, or the 3D desktop switcher, visit the show notes at thescreensavers.com. Cool. Oh, and I wanted to give thanks to my friend Corey Altide for suggesting the application and helping me set it up.
Go Corey.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
Coming after the break, from dial-up to cable, why did you have to change your security habits when your connection's always on? We'll tell you all about it after these messages. Be sure to catch tomorrow's show. Get access to the government's secret scientific information, and we're going to show you how you can build your own bootable Windows CD. Plus, Sarah gives your startup button a whole new look. It's a classic tip, and it's all on tomorrow's show.
Brent joins us on the phone from Tilton, Illinois. Hey, Brent.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good.
How can we help you today?
Well, my family is upgrading from dial-up to cable internet access, and I was just wondering what I needed to do about security.
Are you excited?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you're insanely
That's a
excited.
big jump.
It's amazing.
Yes.
What are you running on security-wise on your dial-up connection right now?
Nothing really. We're just going through AOL and, not a whole lot.
Yeah, the problem there is mostly AOL pop-ups.
Right.
What operating system are you running?
Windows 98.
Okay. Are you going to connect a bunch of PCs in the house, or is it primarily one PC?
Well, it's mainly that one. I'm going to try to set up a router and get my own personal computer on there, but mainly that one.
Okay. Biggest thing is the funny thing about cable modems is basically it's like being on a network LAN inside of an office. You and everybody else on that particular segment of that network on your computer modem, your cable modem essentially has access to everybody else's systems if you don't put a firewall in between that connection and your house. So that would be the first thing I would say would be to build a firewall.
Yeah, Brent, did you have anything in mind as far as what you wanted to go with? I'm sure you've probably heard of us talk about the Linksys routers that you can buy.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something you were interested in, or?
Well, if I'm going to set up a router, I don't really know a whole lot about that, so I didn't know if that would work for a firewall. I know at college I used Zone Alarm for my own personal computer there on their network. And that seemed to work well.
If you had like one computer and you were going to connect it directly to the cable modem and you were never ever going to add any more to the system, download the software Firewall, set that up, run it. Zone Alarm's an excellent choice. It's available free, which is a big plus, and you're pretty much done. The nice thing about the hardware firewalls, and they're not real sophisticated. Kevin will tell you this. They're the stuff that's inside of a Linksys router, not the most sophisticated thing in the planet, but unless you've really ticked off somebody, it's more than enough to keep people out of your house.
I was going to say the router. I know you run a firewall at home, and I just have a Linksys router set up, and I've never had any issues whatsoever. I consider them to be completely safe because you're actually running NAT on the router, so you get an internal IP address. You're not actually connected to the outside world. The router sits in front of all of that. So if anybody ever tries to connect you, they have to come through the router first, which is only has certain ports open and things of that nature to help protect yourself.
And it's nice because you don't have to worry. You worry a lot less about getting a message like, oh, can this application access this? It tends to take a little of the maintenance trauma out of it if you just throw a Linksys up there. And it makes it easier, especially if you want to go wireless for the connection on the other computers. You can get a wireless router. They're under $100, and they're really clean and simple to set up.
All right.
Cool, man. The other thing you can do if you want, you can set up Smoothwall. If you feel like, buying a garage sale PC and a couple of network cards and getting all manual on it, you could actually build a Smoothwall router. It'd be a little more protection, but the truth is, unless you've really ticked somebody off and they know where you live and what your IP address is, your stuff should be totally safe. Just put a Linksys or another low-cost firewall up there.
And for the users out there that do have that Windows XP, I know you're running a 98, you can use the built-in firewall that's completely free into XP for one extra little layer of protection, but a lot of people like that.
And I'd turn that on before I can, especially if I didn't have a firewall in between my home network or my computer and either a cable or a DSL modem, turn on that firewall on Windows XP before you connect it to that modem for the first time. There's some sketchy stuff floating out there.
Let's check in with Dan. Thanks, Brent, by the way. Let's check in with Dan for a helpful tip.
Thank you. Kevin, how would you like to send a video of your pretty face via email? How about even backing up your calendar, contacts, and your mail? Well, you can with Outlook, but not right out of the box. Go to the Screensavers. Go to thescreensavers.com/show notes to get links to all the official Microsoft Outlook add-ins and everything. It's all good. But stay where you are, because coming up next, we got the final emails just for you right after these commercial breaks.
emails are already starting to pour in. And the nice thing about having a live show is that we can answer them in real time. I have one real quick about my segment. Is both applications that I demoed free? Yes, they are. Will they run on Windows? No, they will not. And does it also, one other thing, you want to know if it took up a lot of the CPU time on the processor, because it looks very graphically intense, and in actuality it does not. Take a look at it here at home base. This is a fairly slow machine, and you can see it's fast. I mean, it just flies right up there. So this is not even stressing the CPU. I was looking at the CPU, and I was about 2%, so not a problem whatsoever. Cool little application.
Under 2%. That's not even noticeable.
Yeah, it's all optimized for OpenGL. It's extremely fast.
Outstanding.
Now, Sarah's got all the emails, though.
I do. Shall we get right into it? This one's from Daryl in Chandler, Arizona. Hi, Daryl. I want to know, should I upgrade my PC to AMD 64 now or wait till the 939-pin motherboards come out?
Ooh, I'd say wait.
Absolutely.
I would say wait, because new pinouts are coming in the motherboards, and also PCI Express. You got to wait for that as well.
If you're buying a high-end, this is like, it's a great, anything other than a high-end system, this is a great time to buy because prices are low. But yeah, if you want to buy the fastest systems, wait until the new motherboards and wait until the PCI Express slots come out, or you're going to be buying another motherboard in 6 or 10 months when you want to buy another graphics card.
That's right.
That would be bad.
Hold off for now on the high-end.
All right. This one's from Jason at seethroughtattoo.com. Whatever that means. Is there any small program I can install that will give me a display on the desktop of my processor temperature?
Yeah. Depends on which processor you have. Some of them actually have basically a thermal diode built in that allows you to sense the temperature of them. But what you're looking for is Motherboard Monitor 5.0. And this is a great website, mbm.livewiredev.com. But it's a free download. And let's see if I can find you a picture of that. Did it not come up?
It's not your system.
Let's try that again. There's a screenshot of it. Motherboard Monitor is the application you want, and what it'll do is it'll tell you the temperature, what format you want to use, and you can actually turn around and in some cases have it shut down the system if things go horribly wrong and start running really, really fast.
Yeah, this is a cool little application. I've used this in the past, and it'll monitor all different types of things.
Yeah,
Cool
good, clean way to do it. That would be the easiest and simplest one to check out.
Cool.
Okay, this is one from Aaron in Cincinnati. I'm wondering if there's an easy way to convert my iTunes bot music into MP3 format. Very common question. Take it away.
Shockingly common question.
Yeah. There's a way to do it. I mean, I don't know of any way within iTunes. You can do it the other way. You can convert your MP3s into AACs. Yeah. But you could burn it off to a CD. And then once you burn it, it puts it back to standard audio CD. Then you could re-rip it in a different application or choose MP3 within iTunes and re-rip it. But
the whole point of the digital rights management they built into the AAC code that they use to distribute the songs is to make it really difficult for you to crack the code and be able to use them freely. Burn a disc, rip it in MP3.
But then you're losing quality. Yeah. When you burn it to a disc and rip it back, you're going to be losing some quality.
You could buy the original CD in the first place.
There you go.
Yeah.
That works too.
Okay.
Save yourself the process.
Or there's Kazaa. Just kidding.
I didn't hear that.
Neither did I. La, 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 don't hear you. Okay, Josh wants to know, I'm trying to find an easy way to burn videos that I download into DVD format that my PS2 will read.
Buy a Mac.
Yeah, you know who really knows about this is PS2. Dan, you know about this. You tried to play something in your PS2 the other day.
Right.
Does it play Plus or Dash, or what did you figure out on that?
What was it? I think it wasn't playing Plus, but it
did play Dash.
It plays Dash, yeah.
Okay,
I believe that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, so the PS2s will not play anything that's burned on a Plus R or Plus RW media.
But it will burn to a Dash R?
It will play the Dash R burned it. So what you have to do, I mean, Dan went out and you went to Best Buy, right, and picked up a DVD player?
Yeah.
I mean, DVD players are so cheap now. They have ones that play both Plus and Dash for like $80 and even less than that.
I'll check it tonight, though, and see.
Okay.
Make sure.
Put that in the show notes. We'll find out. So for people that want to know.
Or it's a segment. Yeah, there you go. I'm with you. Buy the cheap DVD player. We got to go, folks. That's it for this edition of Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Kevin Rose. Thanks for joining us. We'd like to thank our guests, Scott Fullman and Kevin Smith. See you next time. Have a great night.